Through our integrated wealth experience, we give you a high-touch service, flexible technology choices, and expert insights, so you can deliver a highly personalized experience to your clients at every step, from onboarding to wealth planning, to performance analysis and more. And because we're part of BNY Mellon, you'll benefit from more than 230 years of strength and stability. At Pershing, we're personally invested in your success.
Visit Pershing.com to learn more about Pershing's integrated wealth experience. Pershing LLC and Pershing Advisor Solutions LLC are both members of FINRA and SIPC.
Message and data rates may apply. T&C and privacy terms can be found at bevel.com/terms. Please don't text and drive.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but you thought it'd be too hard or take too much time? Then try Babbel for free by texting EXPLORE to 64,000. In just 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. And right now, you can try Babbel for free. Babbel starts out teaching you words and phrases by matching them with pictures. You won't believe how easy the interactive program is. Soon the sentences get a little bigger, and before you know it, you're having simulated conversations voiced by native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just text EXPLORE to 64,000 and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or text EXPLORE to 64,000 and try it for free. Text EXPLORE to 64,000.
For the independent bookseller who found you that first edition. For the baker who brings the smell of freshly baked breads to your door.
And for the barista who never needs to ask your name.
We've all got a part to play.
Every little tap keeps your high street alive.
And helps your communities thrive.
So if you love where you live, shop small.
Shopping on your local high street can make a big difference. Shop small. Only by American Express.
Ho, ho, ho. Who's made a list this year?
I want a new phone. One with amazing cameras, ultra-wide lens, of course, live focus video. Well, it has to be 5G ready to stream all my films. Can it come with something awesome to listen to them through?
Darling, I think he was talking to the kids.
Get everything you want and more. Purchase a Samsung 5G ready device and claim a pair of silver wireless Galaxy Buds at no extra cost. Shop our 5G handsets in store or online at your local O2 store or o2.co.uk. 18 plus. Offer excludes Galaxy Fold 5G. Purchased by the 25th of the 12/19. Claim from Samsung within 30 days. T's and C's apply.
You never know where life will take you, which is why the new BMW 3 Series Touring is perfect if you're all packed up for, or escaping to. It has extensive storage and an automatic tailgate, handy if your hands are full. And it even has an optional intelligent voice assistant to help you at every turn. The new BMW 3 Series Touring. Book your 24-hour test drive today. Test drive subject to status and availability. Participating retailers only.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught, it is in for the right side for the touchdown.
Search NFL today.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations. You'll also get live commercial-free news, plus live play-by-play games from NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Network of news and financial information 24 hours a day. Powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. This is Bloomberg Radio. Now, a global news update.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer has made it clear in a letter to Majority Leader Mitch McConnell that he prefers a Senate impeachment trial with witness testimony from at least 4 administration officials, including former National Security Advisor John Bolton.
So when you have the evidence, which the House has, which is very, very severe, all the facts should come out. These 4 witnesses have direct knowledge of the facts.
Meteorologist Pedram Javaheri says strong thunderstorms are forecast for the south, including Mississippi.
Cities such as Jackson and work your way just into western areas of Alabama there. Enough of the risk in place for not only strong winds and some large hail, maybe in a few possibility of tornadoes across that region.
A winter storm warning is in effect for central Missouri into central Illinois and Indiana. 3 to 4 inches of snow is expected, along with a light glaze of ice. I'm John Trout.
Here is some great news. If you missed the deadline to sign up for health insurance.
Why all the top-tier experts? Because business is not a magic trick.
Give us a sense of the economic backdrop.
Bloomberg Markets.
Which financial records are these?
Weekday mornings at 10 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio. Bloomberg, the world is listening. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
And I'm Karen Moscow. Manufacturers in New York State are growing more upbeat about the demand outlook, just as the U.S. and China announced a thawing in their trade relationship. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York's survey measures of general business conditions in the next 6 months jumped 10.4 points in December to a 5-month high of 29.8. The bank's gauge of the orders outlook advanced 11.4 points. U.S. stock index futures and European shares are higher amid hopes a partial trade deal between the U.S. and China eases a key risk for investors heading into the end of the year. We check the markets every 15 minutes throughout the trading day on Bloomberg. S&P futures are up 16 points. Dow futures up 69. NASDAQ futures up 48. The DAX in Germany is up almost 0.8%. The 10-year Treasury down 7/32, yield 1.84%. The yield on the 2-year 1.62%. NYMEX crude oil up 0.2% or 10 cents at $60.17 a barrel. COMEX gold up 0.2% or $2.20 at $14.8350 an ounce. And that's a Bloomberg Business Flash. It is 8:48 on Wall Street.
The following commentary is from Bloomberg Opinion.
Christmas was invented in New York. I'm Justin Fox, columnist for Bloomberg Opinion. In 1808, the term Santa Claus, just one word, made its debut in the New York satirical magazine Salmagundi, which described it as a nickname for St. Nicholas. For the next 2 decades, Salmagundi editor Washington Irving and a few other New York City writers wouldn't let the idea of St. Nicholas or Santa Claus go. Some historians have argued that this was part of a conscious campaign by the city's upper class to make the winter holidays less rowdy and more family-oriented. In any case, by the early 1830s, giving presents to kids on Christmas and saying Santa Claus brought them was becoming standard practice in New York. Understandably, merchants soon embraced this as a major commercial opportunity. So no, Christmas wasn't really invented in New York, but the way we celebrate it today sort of was. I'm Justin Fox. For more opinion, please go to Bloomberg.com/opinion or OPIN Go on the Bloomberg terminal.
This has been Bloomberg Opinion.
And Bloomberg Opinion commentaries can be heard every weekday at this time, and terminal customers can read more at OPIN Go. S&P futures up 17 points, Dow futures up 78, and NASDAQ futures up 51.
Bloomberg Opinion, informed perspectives, and expert data-driven commentary on breaking news.
From New York City for our audience worldwide, this is Bloomberg Radio. Let's get you some more Bloomberg Opinion, shall we? Here's one for you. Brussels prepares for its next Boris punch-up. It's brought to you by Bloomberg Opinion columnist Leonard Laurent, who writes the following. After a year of gridlock in Westminster that has frustrated the UK's attempts to leave the EU on amicable terms, British voters have handed Boris Johnson a thumping majority to do just that. They might also be handing Brussels a tough new competitor on Europe's doorstep. Pleased to say that Leonard Laurent joins us now from London. Leonard, explore this further for us. What should we be looking for going into a new year with Prime Minister Boris Johnson?
So we should be looking, first of all, for Brexit to actually happen, because it's been talked about for a long time, for years, and it's actually finally going to happen. But crucially, there is the exit, and then there is the new deal that the UK has to strike with the EU. And remember that the word competitor has been used by Angela Merkel, right? So this is now deeply ingrained at the top of the EU, this idea that the UK is going to be a competitor, and however friendly, however free the trade deal, the two-party strike, there is still this risk of a Brexit and Trump-style trade competition on the horizon.
Give us an example of what they fight over. I mean, you've got great statistics in your wonderful essay, folks. I just put it out on Twitter, Mr. Laurent's Jewel. Great. So they're going to do this. They need the British. The British need them. I get it. Give us one example of what they're going to argue about.
So I think, remember that this is, they've so far agreed on the barest bones of a trade agreement. So this would not include, for example, financial services. This is a key export of the UK. This is beyond the kind of goods and manufacturing world of trade deals. What happens to financial services? The UK has Europe's biggest financial sector.
Yeah.
London also depends on the EU, despite the comments of certain people in the city, because that's where they've managed to steal a lot of euro trading, which happens offshore in London. So how do these two parties essentially say to each other, look, we depend too much on each other. We don't want to give, the EU doesn't want to give the UK the same access that it had while it was a member inside. How do you get across this and actually make a deal that doesn't at the same time open a back door to what could end up being an even more deregulated London than it is now, a kind of Hong Kong or a Macau on the EU shore?
Lionel, can you give us a sense from the European Commission standpoint what it must have been like for them to watch Boris Johnson win, and not just win, but with such a decisive victory for the Conservative Party? Is this a worst case scenario, or is this basically at least some certainty for them to be negotiating with?
Certainty, total certainty. The kind of idea that Johnson's majority changes everything, I don't buy. So there's this view now that he's walking on water and that he now has some sort of mandate to go full tilt in a sort of conflictual mode. I don't buy it. The truth is the EU by this point wants Brexit to happen. Remember that it gave Johnson a deal that he could then go back and win this election with. So the idea that they're now sitting there quaking in their boots, I'm not entirely convinced by. But obviously it's setting us up for the next stage, because Johnson is going to be around for the next 5 years, longer than maybe a lot of other EU leaders. So it's not all rosy.
What is the time frame going forward? I mean, basically now we're going to have Brexit happens in January, and then Brexit has to actually happen. What's the time frame?
Well, supposedly it's 11 months. I don't buy the idea that this deal will be done in 11 months, but that's what Johnson is promising. And remember that he has a lot of promises to fulfill in terms of trade, but also to all the voters that he's won from the left, because he has actually pulled off an incredible feat and amassed a whole collection of left-wing Labour voters who like the idea of Brexit, who dislike the idea of Corbyn, and who have been told by Boris Johnson, who for years was saying, we're going to deregulate, we're going to diverge from the EU standards. Now he's having to say, actually, we care about public services too. We're going to invest, we're going to spend. So there has to be, in terms of the timing of this, there's a cliff edge of sorts happening within a year, and he's also got to keep the economy together and to keep his political base together. There's a lot happening on his plate in a very short space of time.
I love how you phrase it, the cliff edge of sorts. My guess is cliff edges come sooner than you think. How cliff edgy is the end of this year? I mean, does he get into January with negotiating crisis with the EU?
I really think it could be that. It's the Trump element of the equation that will be interesting to watch. Now, for years, the Brexiters have been telling everyone who will listen that Trump is on their side. Trump loves Brexit. The US is going to be right there with the UK, throwing pot shots at the EU, and they're going to be impossible to resist. The truth is that just hasn't happened. Trump wants his own deal with the EU, doesn't seem to care that much about what the UK could get out of a deal with the US. But who knows? Maybe now that this China breakthrough has happened for Trump, who knows? Maybe there now just might be that united front against the EU that the Brexiters dream about.
Lena, what's your bet? Do you think that the financial sector in London is going to be able to remain there with their EU passporting rights, or do you think essentially we are going to see a slow and ongoing exodus?
So I'm quite optimistic in a way about what happens to financial services, because as I was saying earlier, there is a sense even on the continent, in the Eurozone, that they are too dependent on London. So what they're going to try and do, I believe, is come up with a kind of deal that says we do not anticipate diverging away from the EU standards too much, but we're going to regularly get together and see how, in terms of regulation, we in Europe can learn from the Brits too. So the Brits are going to say we're not going to diverge too far, and the Europeans are going to say we accept that we too want to not deregulate massively, but we too want to have the flexibility and the expertise of a real financial sector like London. So I'm kind of positive on where the financial sector could go.
Leonard Laurent, as usual, with real clarity in a short essay on the path forward. It's got some nice math in it of the importance of UK trade. I've always fallen back on that, Lisa, and that the back and forth, and it's not about the modern day. This goes back to medieval times. One of our great miscalculations of, the history of all this, and particularly back to medieval times, we underestimate grossly the amount of trade that went on. There was massive trade across the channel back for years.
When you talk about the math in Lionel's piece, one point that he made, which is important, is that the UK accounts for nearly 40% of the EU's military power. So there is also that. I do want to just bring you this update on something discussed earlier on surveillance. Stonking is an adjective meaning used to emphasize something remarkable, exciting, or very large. And it stems from a 1940s term, bombarding with concentrated artillery fire. It's a military term.
But you're a font of wisdom. Did you get that off the Bloomberg terminal?
I got that off the Google.
The Google terminal.
The Google terminal. I just thought I would add that because I think it's interesting.
Now, we'll have a stonking debate in the next hour. Paul Sweeney will be here, and we got to find time to talk about Amazon. Huge article in the New York Times today, really piecing together Amazon in the cloud and Amazon in the boxes.
Yeah, huge story, I thought, talking about how they push out competition, how they can take aspects of freely sourced technology, which is free source, in order to build on it, but then to capitalize on it. And the distribution network is just so vast that how do other companies compete given the lack of scale? Really interesting question.
I remember when Amazon was a failure, so they can go back and look at the history of that. Futures advance up 17. Dow futures up 73. This is Bloomberg.
Christmas, a time for sharing gifts and laughter, and photos and videos. Make the most of it with a SIM-only deal packed with data from Tesco Mobile. Like a 10 gig SIM for just £13 a month. It's just one of the ways we're celebrating 100 years of great value. Go in store or search Tesco Mobile today. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Ends 29th of December. 12-month contract and unlocked 4G-enabled phone required. Terms apply. See tescomobile.com/terms.
Ho, ho, ho. Who's made a list this year?
I want a new phone, one with amazing cameras, ultra-wide lens, of course, live focus video. Well, it has to be 5G ready to stream all my films. Can it come with something awesome to listen to them through?
Darling, I think he was talking to the kids.
Get everything you want and more. Purchase a Samsung 5G ready device and claim a pair of silver wireless Galaxy Buds at no extra cost. Shop our 5G handsets in store or online at your local O2 store or o2.co.uk. 18 plus. Offer excludes Galaxy Fold 5G. Purchased by the 25th of the 12/19. Claim from Samsung within 30 days. T's and C's apply.
This week at Tesco, whole beef roasting joints and whole legs of lamb are half price. That's a whole lot of halves off a whole lot of wholes. What a mouthful. Tesco, delivering Christmas for 100 years. Max 2 per customer, selected stores, excludes Express, ends 31st of December.
Central capital of the world, 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio. This is Bloomberg Surveillance Economics.
The good news is the economy is strong. The bad news is the economy is strong.
Financial crises take a really long time to recover from.
Finance.
The strong job market's pulling people back in.
You can't have for very long, monetary union without a fiscal union.
Investment.
What we preach is extreme diversification.
It's hard to have sustained productivity without capital investment.
Bloomberg Surveillance with Tom Keene and Paul Sweeney on Bloomberg Radio.
Good morning, everyone. Paul Sweeney and Tom Keene. A Monday into a busy holiday season. We'll talk about retail here in a little bit. Some real challenges out there in terms of price wars and all that. But huge news flow and bouncing off of Thursday and Friday on trade and on the United Kingdom election. Futures advance and have persistently advanced all morning, up 17. Dow futures up 81. I made a joke Friday, Paul, about Dow 29,000. I was kidding. we can't extrapolate out there yet, can we?
I don't know. On a grinding fashion, we may get there. It's probably one of those things where it's going to be later rather than sooner, but it kind of seems this market grinding up. And the question is, what are the expectations for 2020? Is it a low to mid-single-digit return or maybe something better?
Yeah, 28,245 on Dow futures right now, 3193 on SPX futures as well. Let's do this with so much going on. Let's get right to the equity report. David, where do you start today?
Might as well start with DuPont. Why not? Shares are up 3% in early trading. The chemical company agreed to combine its food ingredient business, what they call DuPont Nutrition, with international flavors and fragrances. DuPont will get $7.3 billion in cash once the merger is completed, and its shareholders will end up with a 55% stake in the combined company. Now, this didn't go over so well for IFF. That's the ticker symbol for international flavors. That stock's down 5.5%.
Is it a freestanding company when they mate?
Absolutely. It's a deal, they call it a reverse Morris Trust. Yeah. Procter & Gamble has done a couple of these, and so have other companies. Right? Yeah, the whole idea is to kind of minimize the tax bill. Along with the transaction. Boeing down almost 4%. A person familiar with the matter said the plane maker is considering a temporary halt in production of the 737 MAX jet. A decision may be made as soon as today at a regularly scheduled meeting of Boeing's board. There is another possibility, though. The Wall Street Journal reported that Boeing might stop building the plane altogether.
And the story of this year, David, and frankly back to 2018 as well, has been the resiliency of the stock. It's been, I mean, all the news, you think it broken down, but David, it hasn't, has it?
No, but that said, I mean, you're talking about a stock that's only up about 6% for the year, so it's far from keeping pace with the Dow Industrials or the S&P 500. For both, you're talking about 20% plus gains in 2019. I should point out, a company that makes about 70% of the 737 MAX, Spirit Aerosystems, also lower in response to this possible halt to production. Spirit Aerosystems down 4.5%. You've got Micron Technology up 3% and Western Digital up 4.5%. The memory chip makers were raised the equivalent of buy from neutral at Susquehanna. The firm expects both stocks to jump about 66% from Friday's closing prices in the next 12 months. Regeneron Pharmaceuticals, though, down 1.5%. The drug maker was lowered the equivalent of hold from buy at Evercore ISI. The firm cited the risk of tougher competition for Regeneron's biggest seller, the eye treatment Eylea, from a Novartis drug called Beovu. And you have Beijing, a Chinese drug developer, traded here as American Depository Receipts. It's down 8.5%. Beijing's proposed treatment for a form of blood cancer failed to meet the main goal of a final stage study. A couple of other deal developments. Spark Therapeutics is up 3%. UK regulators approved a $4.8 billion takeover of the gene therapy developer by Switzerland's Roche Holding. Both companies are involved with the treatments for hemophilia, so that review took some time to play out. And WPX Energy up 1%. The Shell producer agreed to buy closely held Felix Energy for about $2.5 billion in cash and stock to expand in West Texas. WPX also said it will start paying a dividend. But a guy mentioned the most active stock in early trading, PG&E, down 23%. Wow. The bankrupt California utility has until Tuesday to come up with a revised restructuring plan that Governor Gavin Newsom will accept. Newsom rejected PG&E's current proposal late Friday. He called it woefully short of meeting the state's requirements.
Bloomberg Stocks editor Dave Wilson, thank you so much with the festive holiday tie. We appreciate that today. Tom, recently
I'm getting a burn with the glow from the stag.
I know, and it's only Monday.
Holiday ties all week.
All week. All right, that's good. All right, we'll keep you up to date. This has got festivities on it. Very good, Dave Wilson. So, Tom, recently former Fed Chairman Paul Volcker passed, and we think it's just a great opportunity to get a unique perspective on the legacy of Mr. Volcker. We welcome Arthur Levitt, former chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission and Bloomberg LP board member as well. Arthur, thanks so much for joining us. Again, we've had some time here to kind of put Mr. Volcker's kind of unique resume into perspective. Give us your thoughts.
Well, I can recall back in the 70s when Paul Volcker was appointed Fed chairman by and then reappointed by Jimmy Carter, he announced a 1-point rise in the discount interest rate to an all-time high of 12%. And while I was at the American Stock Exchange, I commented affirmatively about that. I commented that this was an act of great courage and wisdom, and Volcker never forgot that. Through the years, anytime he had an opportunity to mention me in whatever job I was holding at that time, running from chairman of the Amex to chairman of the SEC, he extended himself in a very complimentary way. And that was characteristic of the man. He had great compassion, great understanding, and great courage. And it was his courage that really bound the two of us together, because I was one of the few who really supported him at a time when he was under severe criticism for raising rates at that level.
Arthur, everything seemed to be linked back then, and I guess there was a slower pace to it. Could Paul Volcker be Paul Volcker today? Within the media scrutiny and the globalization of news flow, could he have been Paul Volcker of 1979 or 1982?
What a wonderful question.
It's my only good one this week, so go with it. We're doing the Giants next.
I like to think so, Tom. So special. He was so empathetic. He was so unlike the famous politicians of the time. He was a humble man. He was sensitive and caring. He was a lot of things which we don't see in public officials today. Although today's Fed chairman is similarly a humble man and a very decent and responsible individual, I think the job tends to attract pretty good people rather than good politicians.
Yeah.
And I think through the years we've had good Fed chairs. But Paul was special.
We have to ask Arthur in the time remaining. Unfortunately, it's only 12 seconds. I mean, should Eli just walk off the field and say, enough? That was a good win.
I think that Eli will say that after the season. He had a good game. He still was intercepted more than he wanted to be. But and I think we'll see him play again before the end of the end of the season, 2 more games.
Well, very good. Arthur Levitt, thank you so much. He's the chairman, former chairman of the Securities Exchange Commission, and of course on the Bloomberg board. We thank Arthur Levitt for just terrific perspective, particularly there on Chairman Volcker as well. Paul, I've been dying to catch up with you with all the navel gazing about Amazon.
Yeah.
It is so profound within our society. To begin with, there's 2 Amazons. There's the cardboard box Amazon, and there's the cloud Amazon. What's all the scrutiny about?
The scrutiny is about they're just everywhere in our lives, Tom. And, I think there's an issue from a regulatory standpoint of not just for Amazon, but for a lot of the big tech that maybe these companies are too big. When you think about Amazon, it's really 2 separate businesses, as you suggested. And, there's been some pushback that maybe they should just separate the cloud business. The regulators may force them to separate the cloud business from the core e-commerce business. And if so, what would that achieve? But in their cloud business, they're the dominant player in, one of the fastest growing areas in tech. And they have competition there. Microsoft is there as well. Alphabet is there, but Amazon's the lead player, and it's just such a fast-growing and profitable business that I think a lot of regulators are saying, "Gee, maybe these guys are just too big." And not just in the e-commerce, but maybe even in the cloud business.
I mean, you wonder where that debate is 3 years from now. You look at the extrapolation of unit of the boxes. I'm not talking about revenues. I'm just talking about the sheer growth of unit dominance.
Yeah,
I wonder where this debate will be in 36 months.
And it goes to the investments they've made over the last dozen years in distribution fulfillment. You kind of said, gee, what are they spending all that money on? And now when you look at it, the volume of packages going through the system, and it doesn't show any signs of slowing down.
And, of course, employee, let me look that up right now. I can do that even while we're coming in here to break as well. We're talking about Amazon. It was 750,000 jobs. I did not know that. Futures up 18. High for the day. Dow futures up 75. The VIX comes in under 12. 11.98 on the VIX. Paul Sweeney and Tom Keene worldwide. This is Bloomberg.
Let's get national headlines right now with Michael Barr. Michael.
Paul, Tom, thank you very much. House leaders are preparing for the final impeachment vote just as lawmakers are about to leave for the holiday break. Meanwhile, Senate leaders are considering how to structure a trial for President Trump. In a letter to Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Minority Leader Chuck Schumer proposed calling 4 witnesses during a trial that could last 3 weeks or longer. President Trump denies any wrongdoing. At least 6 senior aides have resigned from the staff of Democratic Representative Jeff Van Drew of New Jersey. Van Drew plans to switch parties to the GOP. Van Drew represents the 2nd District in the southern part of the state. Some government offices in New Orleans will be closed today as the city works to recover from a cyber attack. Global news, 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Michael Barr. This is Bloomberg Talk.
Michael Barr, thanks so much. Starting to get some movement in bonds. Bonds higher. 10-year yield up 3 basis points. 30-year bond up 2 basis points. That's a change from the last hour. Futures up 18. This is Bloomberg.
Why has J.D. Power ranked Commonwealth Financial Network #1 in independent advisor satisfaction among financial investment firms for the 6th straight time? We think it comes down to one thing: you. Because it's your input and feedback that keeps us focused on what's most important to you and your clients and continually pushes us to be the best we can be. Maybe that's why we receive top marks in every category of the J.D. Power 2019 Advisor Satisfaction Survey. They named us #1 in client support, #1 in firm leadership, #1 in operational support, #1 in compensation, #1 in professional development support, and #1 in technology support. Ready to partner with the best? Call Commonwealth at 866-462-3638 or visit commonwealth.com and feel the power. Member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor. For 2019 J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com/award.
25 years ago, NJIT graduate Dick Sweeney co-founded Keurig Green Mountain, a company whose incredible innovations changed the way the world brews a cup of coffee. Today, he lectures widely on business leadership and is a strong advocate for NJIT's work to combine business education with the power of STEM.
NJIT is definitely fostering the innovative thinking for budding entrepreneurs simply because that's the world we live in. NJIT is producing students that have been trained, educated, and given the business acumen to be a contributor to a company. The distinct mission is to develop great STEM scholars. The attributes I've always looked for in team members are heart, smarts, guts, and luck. So we want people with passion, intelligence, courage, and never discount luck. The student coming out of NJIT has experienced all of that.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. Learn more at njit.edu.
Asset Manager.
Dear Dad, Merry Christmas. Thank you for always doing everything you could to make this time of year special for us. No one has a Christmas jumper collection quite like yours. Your festive spirit is...
Gingerbread latte with 2 shots and nutmeg whipped cream for Joe.
I hope it snows. I know how you love a white Christmas. All my love, Joe. Heartfelt can happen anywhere with moonpig.com. Download the app and get 20% off when you buy a card and gift this Christmas. Use code HEARTFELT20. Exclusions apply.
Christmas. A time for celebrating, unwrapping and unwinding. Capture every moment with an epic iPhone 6S with a 12-megapixel camera. Now only $12.99 a month from Tesco Mobile, saving you £72. It's just one of the ways we're celebrating 100 years of great value. Go in store or search Tesco Mobile. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Saving £2 per month over 36 months was £14.99. 36-month credit and rolling monthly usage agreements required. Subject to status. Terms apply. See tescomobile.com/terms.
We can't make traffic move faster during rush hour. But we can help you catch up on the news with TuneIn. With live around-the-clock news from MSNBC.
In the UK, they're significantly worse. When the president gets up to the podium...
CNBC and Fox News Talk.
The Fox News poll sizing up the race for 2020 found that each of the 5 top Democrats...
You can use your stop and go for good by staying in touch with the world. Search news to hear what's happening now.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? We've got you covered. With TuneIn Premium, you can listen to every NFL game live as it's happening.
LaShawn McCoy has an opening on the right side, punches into the end zone for the touchdown.
touchdown.
Or catch it later on demand.
Offset backs behind Mahomes. The give is to Williams. Starts right, cuts it back to the left, and flows into the end zone for the touchdown.
You call the plays. Follow the NFL anytime, anywhere, all season long with TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
Influential conversations from Bloomberg Television. Here's Kathleen Hayes.
Joining us now is Epi Kumanakos, managing partner at Concord Financial Group. What do you think? We know what we know. Something's in place. There's more to do. What does it mean?
I think overall it's positive for the investor. It takes some of the uncertainty. I mean, we've always been anxious about the trade war, so that's certainly very helpful. But I think you're faced with an execution risk. There's a lot to be seen in the weeks and months ahead, whether we're going to be able to actually deliver on the phase one deal that we just went through. We don't know a lot of the detail, but certainly we know that we don't have additional tariffs coming on board, which will be very helpful. And I think will allow some people that perhaps were sitting on the sidelines to take a little bit more risk.
Does that mean this is more taking away a negative? The headline risk that, oh my God, we're going to get hit by the trade deal fell apart again, as opposed to something that opens the door to a big rally?
I think business also wants to have more concrete evidence that this is going to stick. So there's nothing that prevents us from 2 months from now saying, well, you know what, they're not fulfilling their obligations, so we're back into raising tariffs. And I think that's perhaps is going to hold some corporates from making those, CapEx investments that they've been holding off from making.
Hear more interviews like this one on Bloomberg Television, streaming live on Bloomberg.com and on the Bloomberg mobile app, or check your local cable listings. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
And I'm Karen Moscow. The Bloomberg Futures Report is brought to you by IBKR and CME Group. The new micro E-mini futures contracts are available at IBKR at the lowest commissions. Learn more at IBKR.com/CME Mini. U.S. stock index futures and European shares higher amid hopes a partial trade deal between the U.S. and China eases a key risk for investors heading into the end of the year. We check the markets every 15 minutes throughout the trading day on Bloomberg. S&P futures up 17 points. Dow futures up 70. NASDAQ futures up 53. The DAX in Germany's up 0.8%. CAC in Paris up 1.2%. FTSE 100 up 2.6%. 10-year Treasury down 9/32, yield 1.85%. Yield on the 2-year 1.63%. NYMEX crude oil is little changed, up 5 cents. That's less than 0.1% at $60.12 a barrel. COMEX gold up 80 cents, also little changed at $14.82 an ounce. The euro at 1.1148 against the dollar. British pound 1.3336 and the yen 109.44. And the Federal Reserve Bank of New York's operation to inject cash into the financial system over the end of the year was oversubscribed today, an indication participants are still ravenous for funding through the beginning of 2020. And that's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Tom and Paul.
Thanks so much, Karen. Greatly appreciated. For those of you in the market, and for those of you that feel you've underperformed this year, once again off indexes, I'm not going to mince words. This is the most important interview of the day and maybe of this December, so different than last December. Anthony Dwyer is with Canaccord Genuity. He writes spirited notes about having the courage to be in the market. He joins us now from a construction site. Did you know, Paul, Tony's put another 4,000 square feet in the house?
Hey, the S&P's up 26% this year.
S&P's up 26%. He's got the bonus of February next year already spent. There may be some construction noise, I'm told, as we speak to good Tony Dwyer. Tony, what do you do now? Forget about, we can do the victory lap and all that. What do you do now in the next year after a double-digit year within a triple-digit bull market?
Yeah, you guys know that's not my style. You can't mush yourself. That's
okay,
sure.
6,000 square feet. I'm sorry.
Right. So here's the statistics. As the listeners hopefully remember, I don't go by what I think. I go by what the data says. And what the data says is that when you're up 20% through the end of October, which we were, your median gain the next year, there's 7 occurrences since 1954, your median gain next year is 19%. 8% with only one negative year, 1990, when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. So the history of it shows you or tells you that you should certainly expect another up year, and that's our forecast.
To me, the heart of it, I know we're going to go with 2 blocks with Tony Dwyer. This is so important. Tony, the heart of the matter is we underestimate how corporate officers adjust on the income statement to the realities handed to them. Is that what happened this year again? They just simply adapted?
Yeah, Tom, they totally adapted, and the Fed totally shifted gears. We love to put the trade war and politics and Brexit and all the fun stuff that we hear about every day, but ultimately the driver of the market is interest rates. Do we have access to money, and can we afford the money once we get it? And that really is the shift here. So what we were looking at for 2019 that kept us so bullish after having such a terrible fourth quarter last year is you really needed the economy to slow down enough to make the Fed go from tightening to easing. And that's exactly what they did. So the bull story for 2019 was slower growth, not that a recession happens, but slower growth equals easy Fed and lower rates. That happened. Now the story into next year is a re-accelerated growth, not just domestically, but globally, because the Fed lowered rates.
All right, so Tony, let's just continue on with that theme, 2020 accelerating growth. Does that mean the Fed might take the opportunity to raise rates, which could really throw a wrench into the 2020 outlook for returns?
This is the greatest part of the whole story, is that the Fed has had a generational change, and Tom and I have talked about this. It is really extraordinary when the Fed chairman says, when he's asked what would make him raise rates, and he says nothing about economic growth. He simply says that inflation is going to have to get meaningfully above the Fed's inflation goal, which is 2%. With a best unemployment rate in 50 years, they're well below the current Fed level of 2%, with core inflation at 1.6%. So what he basically told you is they may never raise rates because inflation is so low. That's the extraordinary thing about the markets right now. It's not priced off of economic activity. It's being priced off of inflation. What a big deal that is.
All right, so Tony, we all know that Tom's been in his triple leverage cash fund all year.
Worked out?
It's worked out. His money's been safe. Let's put it that way. So what does somebody do in 2020? Did they stick with the winners? Did they try to find value? Or did they just kind of go all in with growth and tech and so on?
So one of the thing that shifted us in the summertime is, not shifted us, but had us with this Fed generational view, is we've been through, people kept looking for what we already found. This is the third mini recession we've had this cycle. People forget already the European debt crisis of 2011, 2012. They forget the 2015-16 oil crisis from emerging economies. And then, of course, this trade war related global manufacturing slowdown. And I go through all of that because coming out of those other two mini recessions this cycle, offense was the way to go until you peaked interest rates on the long end. In other words, you wanted to, what outperformed was financials, information technology, and industrials.
So, Tony, the market's obviously been held captive by the trade talks. Looks like we're going to get a phase 1 deal. Do we need a phase 2 deal in 2020?
The best part of this whole thing is that last week was up 0.7% for the S&P 500, and that's terrific. Frankly, at this point, it's kind of overbought, so I'm not chasing the next tick. But the truth is, this is not about the trade deal. I think that gives us all something to write and talk about. This is about interest rates and economic activity, and what really shifted gears was that.
Okay, this has been great. Unfortunately, we're going to have to come back with Tony Dwyer because the construction noise behind him hasn't been too bad.
Taking a break.
So, I mean, it's like 6,000 square feet off 14,000 feet.
Yeah.
The kids' playroom, these studs that have the 3-car garage with a playroom above where they put the kids go play.
It's all the
play
rage.
In the south wing.
Exactly.
Tony's expanding that. He's going out to like 5-car garage, and the playroom above it for the kids is huge. It's amazing. We're going to have Tony Dwyer back and do a really serious discussion of the mathiness of those low rates when you flip the ratio. What kind of multiple is it? Is it Nifty 50? Or for that matter, even Nifty 7? Where to put your money next year? Tony Dwyer, Canaccord Genuity, futures up 18. This is Bloomberg.
This is a Bloomberg Market Minute. The futures are pointing higher at the start of what will be the last full working week of the year. Economists say the outlook for 2020 has brightened a bit now that Washington and Beijing have agreed on the first part of a trade deal. The price of oil is above $60 a barrel, close to a 3-month high. There is cautious optimism the U.S.-China trade deal will boost demand for crude. There is a big Monday merger in the food ingredients business. International Flavors and Fragrances is buying DuPont's nutrition business in a deal worth more than $26 billion. This is IFF's biggest deal ever. The combined company will be a top supplier of ingredients to American food makers. And ever since 737 MAX jets were grounded in the wake of 2 fatal crashes, Boeing has continued to manufacture the planes. Now, with the grounding likely to continue beyond next month, Boeing is considering a temporary suspension of 737 MAX production. Jeff Bellinger, Bloomberg Radio.
Business is constantly evolving. Is your financial printer evolving to keep ahead of the curve? At Command Financial, we are redefining financial printing by providing industry-leading expertise, leveraging technology, and honing processes and best practices. Every day, Command helps SEC registrants, as well as members of their working groups, including securities attorneys and investment bankers, prepare, file, and disseminate regulatory and disclosure documents, such as registration statements, M&A documents, and mutual fund prospectuses and reports. Command provides a full range of services to help you effectively complete your deal, meet your disclosure requirements, and achieve your shareholder communications objectives. Visit our website at commandfinancial.com and learn how we're evolving, not only with the times, but also with your business requirements. Command Financial, redefining financial printing.
Housework. If you're not loving your job and you're getting those Sunday blues, now's the time to make a change. With a LinkedIn app, it's now easier to find and land that perfect role. There are millions of opportunities on offer, and the LinkedIn app helps you hear about them first. LinkedIn has more openings than applicants, so make sure you don't miss out. Sometimes all it takes is one LinkedIn connection to help you land the job that's right for you. Banish those Sunday blues. Download the free LinkedIn app today.
Right now, instead of hearing this, you could be listening to the music that keeps you moving with TuneIn Premium. Find today's biggest songs and all of your favorites commercial-free. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Whether you call yourself a Democrat, Republican, Independent, or something else, the road to 2020 is on TuneIn.
What a night! And a complete earthquake. This was
Follow every step of the Democratic primaries while hearing the latest headlines from the White House with live 24-hour news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox News Talk, and more.
We're closing in on the first results in the battle for the White House.
Experience the election through the sources you trust with the nonstop news channels on TuneIn.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? We've got you covered. With TuneIn Premium, you can listen to every NFL game live as it's happening.
LaShawn McCoy has an opening on the right side, punches into the end zone for the touchdown.
Or catch it later on demand.
Offset backs behind Mahomes. The give is to Williams. Starts right, cuts it back to the left, and blows into the end zone for the touchdown.
You call the plays. Follow the NFL anytime, anywhere, all season long with TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Are you curious what others are listening to on TuneIn? Head to the trending section under Browse to see the most popular stations and podcasts among TuneIn listeners right now. Check it out. You might just discover something new for yourself.
Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Surveillance.
Good morning. I'm Karen Moscow, along with Tom Keene and Paul Sweeney, and the S&P 500 higher at the open of 0.6% or 17 points at 3186. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up 0.3% or 91 points at 28,230, and the Nasdaq's up 0.6% or 55 points at 8790. 10-year Treasury down 9/32, yield 1.85%. Yield on the 2-year 1.63%. NYMEX crude oil up 0.2% or 13 cents at $60.20 a barrel. COMEX gold is up 40 cents. It's little changed at $14.8170 an ounce. The euro is at 1.1147 against the dollar. The yen 109.44. Tom and Paul.
Karen, thanks so much. You know, Paul, what I love about Tony Dwyer, I mean, his research is so gifted on the street. I usually never see it. Like his people won't give it to me.
Of course.
And Dwyer solves it by putting in a font which is like 2. It's like some medieval font from Carolingian Germany or something. He's up 8% on SPX from here.
Exactly. So, hey, Tony, one of the things that we hear about as we get, so far into this economic cycle is, and it's, the stock market is being driven by the big tech stocks and so on and so forth. How about small and mid-cap stocks? Is that a place where I might find some value if I'm a little concerned maybe about valuations or the fact that maybe I missed the market a little bit in 2019?
Well, Paul, typically when the market reaccelerates as interest rates bottomed like they did in September 3rd, by interest rates bottoming, I'm talking about the 10-year no yield, small cap and emerging markets and things like that. The more aggressive areas tend to go higher with interest rates, which is counterintuitive. People would think, oh, interest rates are going up, that's bad. But that's not true. When the Fed is stable, holding rates where they are and the long end goes up, it's a sign of growth is coming. And that's better for small cap and emerging markets. And again, this entire cycle, these jumps higher by the small cap, outperformance by the small cap and emerging markets have proved temporary. This one will be the same, but again, you get a little bit of a respite here with some upside.
I saw this morning the analyst at Citi raising the financial sector up, kind of saying he missed the move up in these stocks. What do you think about the big banks?
Well, they're the ones that act the best when rates are going up. In the last 2 post-mini recession, people think about the banks having done nothing this in the last X number of years. If you look at the way that the big banks acted from 2017 into early 2018, they went nuts to the upside. And again, it's all a reflection of how economic activity is going to progress, and they'll make more money if the Fed keeps short-term interest rates low and long-term interest rates go up a little bit with the activity.
Tony, I look at the market and I look at the up, and somebody's got to catch up. Do you catch up with Amazon and Apple? Do you catch up with something with a 17 multiple on it, which used to be a 13 multiple? How do you catch up? What's the exercise to do that?
Well, I don't necessarily know that people need to catch up. I think one of the inappropriate things, Tom, in all seriousness, that we talk about is it's inappropriate for me to come on the radio or TV and tell people what to do with their individual money. What does catch up mean? Does that mean how far? You don't need to catch up. You just need to be invested. So I think rather than that, and in order to do that, as I said earlier, at this point of the cycle, you want to play offense of industrials, financials, and information technology. So yeah, it could be some of those big names. If the market goes up, it's a market cap weighted index. It's bringing those names with it. By definition, it has to be on those names.
So, Tony, if I'm thinking about your constructive view for 2020, given that we've had such a big run up here in 2019, is the primary risk that the Fed raises rates for whatever reason?
No, Paul, I think it's different now. I really cannot emphasize enough to the listeners how important it is that the Fed is more worried about deflation now than inflation. So I don't think, as I said before, I don't think the risk is upside in Fed. I think the risk is the Fed cut rates and it didn't work. So that the entire global monetary authorities cut interest rates and it didn't re-stimulate growth.
If we have this belief in the core Dwyer theory, is there a recession? No, the known stocks. Do we get to a kink in all these reaction functions where we're in control, rates are low, flip the reciprocal, higher equity valuations until? Is the until a kink in the reaction functions, or is the until some seismic shift we can't see out there?
No, it's going to be the same thing, Tom. It's you go into a recession when companies need money to grow and don't have access to it. So bank lending standards get too tight. The corporate bond market shuts down. And what do companies do when they need money and don't have any access to it? They start to cut production. They start to lay people off, and it ends up with a weak consumer. So that, human nature is the one thing in this game that doesn't change. And eventually that will happen. I don't see it for the investable future based on what the Fed said and the economic data holds. So, but we're always looking for credit stress out of some of our key indicators.
So, Tony, just with the hindsight, the benefit of hindsight, literally about a year ago, we were in a very different market. Looking back, what should we have learned from that December time period?
We should have learned that sometimes the markets are an efficient pricing mechanism. I didn't expect that last 10% drop. Tom and you, Paul, are very, very kind to give me such kudos, but I didn't feel so smart last December when the market was cratering. And it wasn't an economic statement. It was a statement that, some of the rules that have been put in place, like high-frequency trading, algorithmic trading, no uptick, there's some things that can cause these cataclysmic moves when there's no buyer in sight. And I would just urge people to remember what causes a recession, and that is when companies need money and don't have any access to it. Back then, banks were trying to lend them more, but it didn't feel like that.
Yeah, Tony, well, thanks so much. Greatly appreciate it. You're doing this new wing on your house. I like what Bob Vila says. He says it's a sensitive addition.
Right.
I mean, what are you doing, as you build the wing on your house? Are you keeping, the historical character intact?
Area for the firewood?
For the 3 fireplaces. Okay, Tony, thank you. Thank you. So he's got the Franklin stoves throughout the whole thing. He's got 3 fireplaces.
Sure, why not? Yeah.
Tony, thanks so much. Greatly appreciate it. Anthony Dwyer, Canaccord Genuity here in the equity markets. And, we'll Dow up 132, SPX up 22 points. I'm going to be very careful here. His target out there is up 7%. It may be actually a little bit more, but the market's moving so fast.
As an interesting data point, you said, after you've had a big year like this, history has shown a 19% move in the S&P, which is much more than I think the average investor feels about 2020.
Well, and again, remember, you talk about the history of 12 months ago. Remember now, and literally remember December 23, 24.
Sure. It was panic. There was panic in the market. And Tony said that last 10% was really the 10% that he didn't see, and that's what I think a lot of the market didn't see as well.
I did a study of 1 year back, 2 year back, 3 year on that game, and we're literally touching, buttressed on double-digit returns. Forgetting the crash of last time, and we're looking at 8-9% per year for 2 years, 3 years, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's been.
Well, let me do a data check here. We can do that with green on the screen. Dow up 127 points, still getting underway here. 9:38 Wall Street time. 28,261 on the Dow. SPX 3190. The VIX really says it all. Remember, we're 13-14 handle. The grimness of a week or half ago, we're out to 17-18. We've now breached 12, and the VIX a lower number. Calmer, more enthusiasm, 11.97 on the VIX. That's an extraordinary statistic. 10-year yield finally moves 1.86% on the 10-year yield, out 3 basis points. From New York, this is Bloomberg.
Let's get national headlines right now with Michael Barr. Michael.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you, Tom. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer sent a letter to Republican Majority Leader Mitch McConnell that he prefers a Senate impeachment trial with witness testimony, including from acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney and former National Security Advisor John Bolton. Schumer says their testimony would seem to be needed to present a fair case for both sides.
We have an obligation to the American people that they believe that this has been done in a fair way, not in a rushed way, not in a circus-style way, and not in a dilatory way, but a fair way.
The House will vote Wednesday on the impeachment articles. New poll numbers show Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders lead the field of Democratic presidential candidates, followed by Elizabeth Warren. According to an NPR PBS NewsHour Marist poll released today, Biden has 24%, Sanders at 22%, and Warren has 17%. Michael Bloomberg is also seeking the Democratic presidential nomination. Bloomberg is the founder and majority owner
Bloomberg LP, the parent company of Bloomberg Radio. Thursday, the top Democrats will hold their 6th presidential debate. Bloomberg will carry it live starting at 9 p.m. Wall Street time. Global news, 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Michael Barr. This is Bloomberg Time.
Michael Barr, thank you so much. The Dow up 126 points, 28,261. Worldwide, this is Bloomberg Surveillance.
Message and data rates may apply. T&C and privacy terms can be found at babbel.com/terms. Please don't text and drive.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but you thought it'd be too hard or take too much time? Then try Babbel for free by texting EXPLORE to 64,000. In just 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. And right now, you can try Babbel for free. Babbel starts out teaching you words and phrases by matching them with pictures. You won't believe how easy the interactive program is. Soon the sentences get a little bigger, and before you know it, you're having simulated conversations voiced by native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just text EXPLORE to 64,000 and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or text EXPLORE to 64,000 and try it for free. Text EXPLORE to 64,000.
Why has J.D. Power ranked Commonwealth Financial Network #1 in independent advisor satisfaction among financial investment firms for the 6th straight time? We think it comes down to one thing: you. Because it's your input and feedback that keeps us focused on what's most important to you and your clients and continually pushes us to be the best we can be. Maybe that's why we receive top marks in every category of the J.D. Power 2019 Advisor Satisfaction Survey. They named us #1 in client support, #1 in firm leadership, #1 in operational support, #1 in compensation, #1 in professional development support, and #1 in technology support. Ready to partner with the best? Call Commonwealth at 866-462-3638 or visit commonwealth.com and feel the power. Member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor. For 2019 J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com.
You never know where life will take you, which is why the new BMW 3 Series Touring is perfect if you're all packed up for, or escaping to. It has extensive storage and an automatic tailgate, handy if your hands are full. And it even has an optional intelligent voice assistant to help you at every turn. The new BMW 3 Series Touring. Book your 24-hour test drive today. Test drive subject to status and availability. Participating retailers only.
Christmas. A time for celebrating, unwrapping, and unwinding. Capture every moment with an epic iPhone 6S with a 12-megapixel camera. Now only $12.99 a month from Tesco Mobile, saving you £72. It's just one of the ways we're celebrating 100 years of great value. Go in store or search Tesco Mobile. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Saving £2 per month over 36 months was £14.99. 36-month credit and rolling monthly usage agreements required. Subject to status. Terms apply. See tescomobile.com/terms.
Dear Dad, Merry Christmas. Thank you for always doing everything you could to make this time of year special for us. No one has a Christmas jumper collection quite like yours. Your festive spirit is...
Gingerbread latte with 2 shots and nutmeg whipped cream for Joan.
I hope it snows. I know how you love a white Christmas. All my love, Joe. Heartfelt can happen anywhere with moonpig.com. Download the app and get 20% off when you buy a card and gift this Christmas. Use code HEARTFELT20. Exclusions apply.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
In the stock market and in life, everything can change from 1 minute to the next. Be the first to hear the latest money news and market trends with CNBC on TuneIn. Wherever your day takes you, listen to CNBC's full slate of programming, including shows like Fast Money, Squawk Box, and Mad Money with Jim Cramer. And when the next big business story breaks, CNBC lets you know with live updates and commentary. At the office, at home, or on the go. Search CNBC on TuneIn to listen.
Right now, instead of hearing this, you could be listening to the music that keeps you moving with TuneIn Premium. Find today's biggest songs and all of your favorites commercial-free. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
News 24 hours a day, on air and at TikTok on Twitter. Powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in over 120 countries. This is Bloomberg Radio. Now, a global news update.
This is the first time in the history of the country that any impeachment is proceeded without a specific crime being alleged or proven.
Republican Congressman Mike Johnson, representatives in the House are set to vote on articles of impeachment this week. If charges are approved, senators will take up the matter. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer.
This should be for Democrats to bring in their favorite conspiracy theories and Republicans to bring in theirs. This is an august and solemn proceeding.
Senator Schumer has proposed calling Trump administration witnesses. On this, the 12th day of a transport strike over pension reform, French President Macron's government suffers a blow. A key architect of pension overhaul resigns over alleged conflicts of interests. Amnesty International says at least 304 people were killed in last month's protests in Iran, a significantly higher number than what the group had reported previously. I'm John Trout.
Here is some great news. If you missed the deadline...
Sometimes the simplest method is the best one.
I think even I could figure it out today.
Balance of Power with David Weston.
You had a high estimate. It beat your high estimate.
Weekdays at noon Eastern on Bloomberg Radio. Bloomberg, the world is listening. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
And I'm Karen Moscow. U.S. stocks are climbing toward a new high, and European stocks reaching a record amid hopes that a partial trade deal between the U.S. and China will ease a key risk for investors heading into the year end. In another positive sign, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York's survey measure of general business conditions in the next 6 months jumped to a 5-month high. And we check the markets every 15 minutes throughout the trading day on Bloomberg. The S&P 500 up 0.7% or 22 points at 3190. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up 0.5% or 150 points to 28,286. And the NASDAQ up 0.9% or 79 points at 8814. 10-year Treasury down 11/32, yield 1.86%. The yield on the 2-year 1.63%. NYMEX crude oil up 0.2% or 14 cents at $60.21 a barrel. COMEX gold little changed up 50 cents at $14.8170 an ounce. The euro 1.1148 against the dollar. The yen 109.47. And PG&E shares, you've been watching those this morning. They were falling after California rejected the company's overhaul plan. Governor Gavin Newsom said the debt-heavy proposal would prevent PG&E from making necessary safety investments. And that's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Tom and Paul.
Thanks so much. Greatly appreciated, Karen. Lots to talk about in Washington as well. But I want to do infrastructure first, Paul, if we can, just get a couple of minutes in here on it. We can do this with Terry Haynes of Pangea Policy Advisories. Terry, I-80 crosses the Mississippi River between LeClaire, Iowa, and Rapid City, Illinois. And it's like the coolest thing when you're a kid. The first time you cross the Mississippi River, you're a little kid in the car with your parents. And, this is before air conditioning and all that. And I don't even know if the bridge was there then, but it's the coolest thing. I was just looking, Terry, at like the worst bridges in America. And everybody beats up on Rhode Island. Good morning, Boston 106.1 FM. But the Centennial Bridge between Rock Island and Davenport is trophy taking, and there's others. Why can't we do something as basic as fix the 30 worst bridges in America?
Because there is no agreement on exactly how you fund that. What we've had for the last several years, since the last major infrastructure funding in late 2015, which was a 5-year bill, so it doesn't expire till the end of 2020, is a world where Democrats have insisted on paying for it through tax increases. Republicans say, no, we have to actually borrow the money in order to get this done. There is no commonality on any of this, and there's all these other little complex issues surrounding highway trust funds and the like, and so nothing ever happens, great. And that's where we are.
So you compromise and do both. You do a modest tax increase, and you do bond transactions, and isn't that how you get this done?
It is, theoretically, yes. There's there has been no sign of compromise anywhere. The most that's been going on in Congress right now is what's known as an authorization bill. In other words, authorizing increased spending without actually providing for it. And there's no sign it's going to happen. So it's definitely not going to happen for next fiscal year.
I mean, Paul, get us to impeachment, but, Pharaoh took the Gulfstream back, so I came back British Air, and I'm sorry. You go to the airports of Europe, and then you get off at JFK or whatever, and it's like, are you kidding me?
Are you kidding me? Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, Terry, so, one of the things that has been kind of fascinating to me, and I can't really think back to 98 if it's consistent, but the markets don't care about the impeachment process overall. Is there a point where it may become material for financial markets?
I think it's highly unlikely. It's as unlikely as, I usually give 5% for lightning striking, and I'll be in the 5% category right now. The decision that House Democrats have made is to fast track an impeachment based on the witnesses they've got and the information they've got. And what that comes down to is a couple of assertions about abuse of power and the other one of contempt of Congress. The latter comes down to Trump doesn't give us everything we want when we want it, so therefore he's in contempt, which doesn't really wash. Markets, I think, see this the same way that the political people in Washington see this, which is that for good or ill, it's a partisan event. And it's unlikely to change the status quo or even to increase uncertainty, market uncertainty around Washington business. So therefore, they shrug it off, and they should.
All right, what they're not shrugging off is obviously trade negotiations. That's been whipsawing the market almost on a daily basis. It appears that we have at least the outlines or the framework of a phase one type of deal. Given what we know now, is this really anything new? Is there anything that we wouldn't have gotten in the normal course of business, perhaps, maybe even as part of the TPP?
Oh, yeah, I think so. And believe me, I'm not being a cheerleader for the administration by saying so. But, the USTR Lighthizer makes a few points, and they're worth markets paying attention to. Markets, what markets, I think, fail to understand is that political policy priorities are different than market priorities. And markets talk themselves into thinking, well, Trump's in favor of markets, so how, anything he does that doesn't result in the markets going up every day is bad and inconsistent. Sometimes I think of this as the Salvatore Ferragamo production of Oliver. Please, may we have some more. Lighthizer pointed out yesterday in an interview that his priorities are policy priorities are what they are. They're trying to integrate the United States and the Chinese system, and that's very much in the U.S. interest. There are, he says in this agreement,